Atletico Madrid won, Arsenal won, and Harambal Derby, saw its results. A lot of talk leading up to this game. You saw a lot of memes and a lot of jokes comparing this particular fixture to the Bayern Munich and the PSG side, which I think was more so the comment of a casual football fan than someone that actually I think understands what they're watching. Granted, today wasn't the most exciting, thrilling, football game that we could have seen, but it was very, very tactical, very, very measured, and you can tell that both teams wanted to get the result, but also had in the back of their head that if they commit too many men forward, the other team can hurt them. So it was enjoyable from that perspective. But let's go ahead and dive into it. When I looked at our starting 11, it's kind of really hard to make any assessments or judgments. I almost feel like the starting 11 shows itself. Bukayo Saka is still not 100% fit. Calafiori is not 100% fit. Timber wasn't available. Eze had a bit of a knock in the game against Newcastle, and it seems like Havertz wasn't even featuring in this game either. So it kind of feel like the 11, chose itself, and I think Nkapie was going to be the obvious starter at left back, especially going away to the Wanda Metropolitano. But as the game actually started, we weathered the storm in the first 10 to 15 minutes, which I think, you're going to have to expect in any, European away day. And we did that pretty well. Eventually began to grow into the game. I think we took a little bit of control and we ended up getting the lead with that penalty and fantastically taken by Victor Gyökeres, who I think actually was pretty good today. I actually think that the space and the overall pace of the game, particularly of the European game, suits him a lot more than it does in the Premier League, where it's a lot more physical, it's a lot more fast paced, and teams don't give you as much space on the ball as you get here. Which I think is kind of an interesting dynamic, especially of how we move forward over the next few years and whether or not he's going to continue to be our main option up front. But I do trust him in European games, and I think he can be an outlet for us, and he took care of the job today. But it was at halftime, really, where the game really changed. Simeone made a tactical adjustment, took off his son, Gianluigi Simeone. And is that his name actually? Or am I just making that up? I don't think is his name Gianluigi Simeone. These all these yeah, no, it's Giuliano Simeone. Sorry about that. Yeah, Giuliano Simeone. And put in Lenormand, basically going to either a 5-2-3 or a 3-4-3, essentially three center backs and wing backs. And it helped them from a tactical perspective. We saw that Lookman was actually inverting a little bit more, hurting us a little bit more as our kind of back line got stretched out by the wing backs. They got a little bit more central, created a lot more opportunities, hit the post in one occasion, and perhaps even created a few chances that they should have buried. I mean, we could have easily been 2-1 down in that game. Then obviously a penalty is given, which I don't agree with, but that is the kind of handball rule in the Champions League, and they drew 1-1, and then we were under the cosh. The immediate substitution was Odegaard for Eze, which I'll be honest with you, when that particular substitution was made, I didn't really understand it. I thought Odegaard was actually what was the one player that was linking us up from defense into attack and in the midfield, and I found that a bit strange. But then just a few minutes after, he made a very I think good substitution, bringing on Jesus Saka and Trossard for Martinelli, Gyökeres, and Madueke. And funnily enough, I was watching the game, with my dad, and my dad says, "Oh, Arsenal's going to start attacking now," and I told him I was like, "No, actually, this is a bit more of a controlled substitution for him. Trossard and Saka are going to cut inside a little bit more. They're better with the ball. They have better ball retention. Jesus is going to be dripping in a lot more deeper, trying to actually go ahead and link up play and help us play off in the back. It's actually more so about controlling the game and having possession more than actually trying to go forward and attack. And that's exactly what we saw. And frankly, I think that's exactly what the game needed. We were under the cosh. Atletico was being incredibly physical, and we are ourselves a very physical team, but I don't think that we have the technical ability that is required when we play with that particular front line. We have a lot more technical ability and I think control in possession playing with Jesus, Trossard, and Saka than the original front three that started. And you can see why perhaps those last 20 minutes of the game, we seem to have been the team on top despite our lack of chances and shots on goal. We were the team that actually had a lot more control, and we were the team that was actually controlling the tie. And it kind of seems like Atletico Madrid just kind of settled for a 1-1 draw, and ultimately it came down to a VAR decision to determine how that particular result was going to end on the night. So I think fantastic substitutions from Mikel there, and definitely took control back from the game. So I think he's got to be a bit more proactive and pragmatic because we could have easily been 2-1 down. And I think against some better teams who have better attackers, they would have finished the job for us. But all in all, great result. guys. I mean, Atletico Madrid's record in the Wanda Metropolitanos, particularly in Europe, is absolutely stellar. I don't think they've actually ever lost there. So 1-1 result is actually fantastic because now we go back to London and we're in control of the tie. We're in control of the game. We don't need to chase the game. We can rely on our crowd. We can allow ourselves to grow into the game and we can play, I think, the game at a pace that we feel comfortable with and at the rhythm that we feel comfortable with, which I think is one that's a bit more measured and controlled. And I think that's fantastic. And being able to rely on our home fans and our atmosphere to grow into the game and see out the result. Um, you know, there's I myself have been very critical about the way that we've played, our lack of creativity, our lack of a cutting edge, our lack of a kind of attacking flair. And I mean, it was on display today. It was pretty obvious. But at the same time, there is a time and a place to be controlled. There is a time and a place to be measured, and there is a time and a place to kind of slow the pace, of the game down. And I do think that away games in knockout football, particularly in the Champions League, is the time to do that. This isn't an element of our football club that I hate in its entirety. I think it's actually an X factor of ours. It's something that we can use, and I think it's an edge that we have a lot of teams, and even the set piece, routines that we had. I think it was a little bit extra that we had on some of their teams. What has upset me, and I think has upset many people over the last few months, maybe even year, or even more than a year, is the fact that this defensive resilience and reliance on set pieces has become our identity. And I think that we need to go back to trying to find a balance. We need to find an opportunity to not only switch that on and off, where when we're playing someone like, let's say, a Fulham at home, we can go all out attack. We can score 2, 3 goals. We can put it to the sword, and we can be the team that finishes, teams very early on, and then also be the team that knows how to be resilient and defensive. And that used to be an element of this Arsenal side, just a few seasons ago. We were the team that was capable of playing very well and then defending very well when we needed to. And when I look at the other side of the bracket, I know all these guys are kind of raving about this 9 goal thriller, but if I'm being frank with you, and it may be a bit of an unpopular opinion, I looked at it as a teams that were very, very poor defensively, teams that were very poor in defensive transitions, teams that commit a lot of men forward leaving a lot of guys in the back very isolated, and the teams that are very, very vulnerable and frankly lack a little bit of pragmatism. I mean, PSG found themselves in a position where they were 5-2 up, a 3 goal lead. They could have controlled the game, having the phenomenal midfield that they have, and just slowed the pace of the game down, controlled a couple of things, saw out the game, and they would have probably been through the Champions League final. And instead, now they're heading back to Bayern with just a 1 goal lead. And I think on the day, pretty good result for Bayern Munich, and they can see themselves out of a Champions League final despite having a 3 goal lead. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's what wins you tournaments. I don't. I really don't. And I don't think they were this all out attack as they were last year. And by that, I mean they were a lot more attacking than they were last year. And so I see that and I think to myself, if Arsenal and Mikel specifically can just find the right balance, can find a way to make this attack work where we actually do get into the offensive third and we get to the final areas of the pitch, we can be a bit more decisive with our pass, we can have a little more of our cutting edge about us, we can just, have a little bit more fluidity, and we balance that with kind of our defensive, strength and our ability to be physical on the ball as well, would be a very tough team to beat. And I would fancy ourselves in a Champions League final. But right now, we have a phenomenal defense, a rather stagnant yet physical midfield, and a lackluster, toothless offense. And PSG and Bayern Munich, they have incredible attacks, good midfields, and terrible defenses. So, ultimately, we just need a half decent attack to be able to get at these guys and do something. And Mikel has just a few weeks to figure it out. But Fulham is on the weekend. I think it's a perfect game for us to not only get the result, but also start seeing a little bit more of a performance now. It's an opportunity to go 6 points clear of Man City, who have to go away to Goodison on the Monday, and then take care of the business against Atletico Madrid on the Tuesday. And with that being said, we will probably still have the lead in the Premier League, regardless of what happens at Goodison Park in the Champions League final, feeling confident, feeling good. These next 2 games could really be a very big turn for not only the players, but the mentality, the feeling of restlessness, the fan base, everyone as a whole. It could be a very big turn for us psychologically. And I think if we can get over the line over these next 2 fixtures, the season can end very well. If we can't, it's going to end very poorly. But it's all to play for now. Hopefully the guys can get some rest. Hopefully some of the guys can come back who I think are desperately needed. I think Calafiore needs to play in this side. I think Timber is necessary in this side. And I think we definitely need to give ourselves the ability to see as a Odegaard and Saka all on that pitch together playing. I think that's probably the best attacking combo that we can see. Maybe even a Victor Gyökeres in Europe and maybe a Kai Havertz in the Premier League. That's probably what I would want to see going forward. And I think if we can get that attack figured out, we're in a good spot to actually do something. So hopefully we see it. I'll catch you guys in the next one.